the owner doesn't have clear vision or measurable goals. Um, that just there's a whole waterfall effect of that, right? But that's a big the key there is they don't have measurable goals.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
And you've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
Bruce, thank you so much for joining us today. We're all excited to hear about your business, and you've got some 5, not tips, but common struggles of business owners that we're going to go through today and learn more about, and hopefully some tips and tricks on how to overcome those struggles.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. I like talking about this topic, and yeah, we can dive into these challenges that pretty much every small business owner has probably faced at one point or another. So
awesome. Before we dive into that, what's the name of the company?
Ascendwise.
Ascendwise, and you're the founder of this company.
I am, correct.
And I really enjoy hearing the founding story, like the why did you, like what led you to this perfect world of, hey, I'm gonna put everything on the line and start this company and to help other businesses. Like what was the mindset there, and what drove you to do that?
So do you want the short version or the 2-minute version? We'll go for that. So yeah. I spent my career up until when I went full time with this a few years ago, in the small business mostly under 50 million in revenue. I had an opportunity to work in Fortune 500. I was there very briefly and very quickly realized it wasn't my place, right? I believe it. We all have our place. It's not knocking Fortune 500, but it's just not my place. Right. So I realized that pretty quickly, and I grew up. I was always very entrepreneurial and just liked small business. And so I went to a startup IT managed service company and was able to wear a lot of hats, which was exciting at the time. It eventually it wears you down, but I was able to learn a lot. I came in as effectively assisting our controller and VP of HR to really just help own and improve the finance and HR function of the business. And from there, I just had responsibility piled on just repeatedly, right? So I was able to grow and really experience operations and sales and marketing and just start. I got a seat at the management table pretty early, and hugely thankful for the owner of that business at the time and the rest of the management team. They took me in, and I was able to learn very quickly. So I've been in small business from early on, and from there, that first business, the owner wanted to exit, so we were acquired by a private equity owned company as a bolt-on company, and that had a whole another host of learning experiences, right? So now I'm learning about mergers and acquisitions, and then that ball kept rolling. We were put in charge of. They bought us to kind of get into a new space, so we became okay, you're part of us now, but go grow this, right? Go grow this other company that we just acquired that's like you. And so that ball just kept rolling, kept growing responsibility and pretty much operating as CFO, at that point when we went through the acquisition. Stayed there for a while and then kind of got burnt out we got bigger and bigger through mergers and acquisitions, got burnt out on it, and just had an opportunity to go to a like company that was smaller again, but bigger than the first one when I joined it. And to help them do the same thing. Owner said, hey, we have a goal, we'd like to exit and this time frame, and joined them. The time frame got escalated much sooner than we anticipated. So we go in and I help establish process across the company, right? Build out the finance and accounting organization, HR, I owned sales operations, very, very much a partner on the sales side as well. And successfully, owner exit, and then found myself in that same spot of saying, okay, I'm at this private equity owned company. You start getting put into a box a little bit as the companies get bigger, which makes sense, right? That's everybody needs a very specific role, and the more people there, the roles kind of get more tight because you have more to do. So I've always just liked helping small business owners. I've done it since college. I mean, just my whole entire professional career, I've always helped small business owners on the side. And I just got to the point where I was like, you know what, I think my lane is working with the founder-led small businesses who are just struggling to understand how to grow their business, really because they don't understand their numbers, and they don't. It's because they don't like it. It's not their thing, right? It's back to, we all
Right.
have our thing, we all have our place. And most small business owners are really good at the core function of their business. Plumbing company, right? They start it because they're really good at plumbing and they like it, not because they're a serial entrepreneur. I mean, you have those cases, but for the most part, when you're talking under $10 million in revenue, most of those business owners know their core function very well. And then they just lack the understanding, really the desire to understand the finance side, which that really, when you understand the numbers, we say this all the time, understand the numbers that steer your business, there's a lot of growth and profit potential that you unlock by doing that. So I got to the point where I said, that's my lane, that's where I want to be, that's who I like helping and working with. So that's what I did.
So now you are basically, you call yourself a chief profit officer, and you have a company now that does this virtually for small businesses across the country.
Correct. So we kind of stay away from the chief financial officer a little bit, just because sometimes the expectation there is you might be really into the accounting weeds, and we stay high level. Our goal is to come in, help the business owner understand what drives their business, right? What drives
Right.
revenue, what drives profit, what drives cash, to help eliminate the frustrations they have and help them move towards their goals. I mean, we're big. The first meeting we sit down with a new customer, it's all about, what do you want personally? And let's figure out what that means for your business, because we need to know what you want so we can tell the business what it needs to do, right? To make, I always say there's an owner you and there's the business you, and the business you needs to know what owner you wants, so they're not in conflict, right?
Right.
And then you can set goals and targets for the organization, the business, and roll that down from there. And you have it's kind of how you arrive at that well-oiled machine stage, right? So
Right. And I also assume that you don't do CFO because there's liability involved with CFO. There's no liability in profit officer, right?
yeah, it's really just to emphasize what we're really focused on. We're there to help them improve their profit and cash flow. Can we give some guidance on technical accounting topics? Yes, but that's not really what we're there for, right? And that's why we kind of shy away from the CFO. There's a lot of people who do virtual CFO work out there, and
Right.
everybody does it differently, does their own thing. And because we come in with a framework, we're not really showing up and saying, hey, what can we help you with? We say, this is what we do, who we do it for, and why it works well. So it's profit oriented. So that's why.
All right. So you've developed the 5, key things that are hurdles that a business owner might have. And then you've got a whole process that you take somebody through to help fix those hurdles or struggles that they have. I don't think we have time to go through your whole process today. So let's just, dive in on those, the 5 struggles that you see business owners having on a regular basis. Can you go over those for us really quick?
Yeah. So list all 5 of them first, and we can dive in. The first
Yeah.
one, what we typically see is the business relies way too much on the owner, or the business falls apart, right? So the business can't operate without the owner. That's the first one. Second, we have the owner doesn't have clear vision or measurable goals. That just there's there's a whole waterfall effect of that, right? But that's a big, the key there is they don't have measurable goals. Third one, they're in a catch-22 or chicken versus egg situation with profit and cash. And what I briefly mean there is they need to grow. They're trying to grow or maybe pay themselves more, but they can't do that without more profit. But then they can't get more profit without more cash to grow the business. So they're just kind of trapped, right? And they're stuck. The next one, the business owners typically don't have a simple way, and the keyword here is simple way to know what's working and not working in their business. It's just there's a lot of guesswork happening here. This is where I like to say the broken clock, the phrase, the broken clock is right twice a day. So we can talk about that. And the last one is they just don't know where to focus efforts for themselves or their team. So it's just do this, do that. There's no real focus, right? So they find themselves working on things just to stay busy or to feel like they're making progress, but they don't know if it's the right things to focus on.
Right. I'll have to admit, I've been guilty of all five, and I'm occasionally still guilty of some of those on a regular basis.
Right? Hey,
so
I am too. Like we would, I think, and I am too.
All right. So let's just go through and dissect each one of these, and then hopefully between the two of us, we probably have some different tips or tricks on how to maybe overcome them, or at least recognize. I think recognizing them first is that you have these problems is the biggest challenge, right? So,
right.
Remind me, what was the very first one that you talked about?
So the first one, when the business relies too much on the owner, or it falls apart, can't run without them, right? And I'll give you the quick, like, why is this a problem and what this typically looks like, and then we can go from there. I mean, obviously it's a problem because the business owner's stuck with a job at that point. The business can't grow without them, right? And this probably affects everybody lives here for some period of time when they start their business. Again, we're not talking venture backed, private equity and business. We're talking about
owner
operated businesses. Yeah, you're everyday American small business, right? So they're kind of stuck with a job, and it can't grow past them. We see they're wearing too many hats, they're doing too many things. They can't afford to hire. They have people in roles that can't do the roles, and we see. I'll say this here, but it applies to a lot of it. We see lack of vision, lack of process, and lack of profit as kind of like central issues with all of these. So that's kind of what it is and what it looks like.
Okay. So the company is dependent on the owner to be there to operate the business. I would even pull that a little bit further and say that even if the owner's not, in a lot of cases, I see that the owner has a right-hand man or woman that the company's way too dependent on as well, right?
Right.
So my belief is that the company's operation should not be dependent on a single anything, vendor, building, person, across the board, right? I mean, you really have to look at that. I guess it depends on what you want your company to be, right? If when you die, your company goes away, then great. Let it be dependent on you forever. But if you want to retire or something else or pass it on to have a legacy, that's not good. And long term, what does that end up doing to the owner if he doesn't get out of that position?
If they're stuck there and they're at low profitability, I mean, well, it burns them out. If that's not what they want, because again, back to vision is key here. Why you started your business is so important, and kind of changes the context of all these and says, well, is that really a problem or not? It usually is a problem. But if their vision was, hey, I'm just I'm a one-man show and I have a little support team, then that's their vision, then so be it, right? Most of the people we encounter, that's not what they want. They want that dream. They started this business to have more freedom of time and money effectively, right? They want to be able to control their schedule and really control their financial success in life. So that's not where they're at. And yeah, it burns them out. You start getting that resentment of your own business, right? Because man, I'm doing all this. I can't step away. I don't have the money to hire somebody. I'm paying my team more than myself, and I still don't. I still can't step away, and it just creates this bad place that they end up in, and it I think it really has a ripple effect outside of just that business. It starts impacting, their attitude in the evening, right? Or
Right.
their other emotions and relationships start getting impacted by that, and that's not good.
All right. So say I'm that guy or woman, and I'm running my business, and the whole company's dependent on my knowledge. What's the first thing that I should do to start, peeling that blanket back and letting some of that responsibility land on other people?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We kind of mentioned this earlier. We start every new relationship with the vision, right? What are you trying to accomplish here? What are you trying to accomplish in your life? Do you want a ski lodge in Montana? Like, we need to know that. Your business needs to know that. Otherwise, if it doesn't and it's not producing the results, you're going to be miserable, right? So we start with vision. And then the downstream effect of that is once you have vision established and your company has these phrases are overplayed now that I hate that it got this way, but vision, mission, and values are so important because it unlocks accountability and decision making in your organization, right? So we're not we know a lot. We're very well in tune with that. I would say that there's other resources out there who are better at. I mean, I have a book that I send to everybody when we start working with them, saying, "Hey, this book will take you through exercises of how to actually develop that if you don't have it." And when they get that in place, now everybody's, it's the right people on the right bus, right? Or the people sitting in the boat paddling in the same direction. Um,
Right.
and they're everybody can now make decisions because they understand where the company's trying to go. They can make decisions. You have goals now and all that, and that's what allows the business owner to start saying, okay, i can I can get out of this. I can trust that person to make that decision, or now I can put a
Right.
process in place to allow this work to happen without me, and they can step away.
Right. So start with vision, right? Without vision, you're just floundering. And I would say
Yeah.
on the tactical side, the thing that I tell business owners just right away is start developing a standard operating procedure process, right? So that
Yes.
if you don't
Yes.
have that in your business, then everything you do, every employee is doing things differently, right? And
Exactly.
you
Hmm.
cannot, I have one of my mentors says all the time, he goes, that the the synonym to profit is replication,
Right.
right?
Very true. Yeah.
That's the easiest way to create profit is replicate things that make money. So,
Very true.
um, and if you don't have that process, like you said, then you cannot replicate it consistently. So
Right. Yeah. So
awesome.
so yeah, I mean the summary there is vision, goals, process, and that's how you get out of that trap.
Absolutely. Wonderful. All right. Moving on to the next trap.
Yeah. So was the second one, the owners when they don't have clear vision and measurable goals. So we kind of talked about vision. So really it's they don't have measurable goals, right? And right away you're probably saying, well, yeah, this is kind of a result. A lot of these challenges can be connected, right? You solve one and the other one
Right.
might go away. So it's coming from the same place. They don't have measurable goals. And the problem there is, think of a road trip. If how do you know if you're making progress if you don't know where you want to go? You never
Right.
know if are we winning, and your team too. Like this is important for your team to know when there's never any wins or losses. Like it's good for us to have that too, right? Like that's how we learn and we stretch our learning and whatnot. But yeah, when you don't know where you're trying to go, it's really hard to tell your team where to go, and everybody's just out there. It's the same thing. They're floundering, just like when you don't have vision in place. It's just a responsive environment of, all right, we'll do this task, do that task, but we don't really know why we're doing it from a high level, or if we're doing it well enough, right? Because we don't know what success looks like. So it's
Right.
it's really what it is. There's no definition of success. And
So
that
goal setting is really hard. right?
Yeah.
To do. How important is it when setting goals to set time frames?
That I think it's critical. I'll say that I do. One of my favorite books is written by the guys who run Basecamp. I can't remember. They have several. The Basecamp, the software company. They have several, and one of them they talk about how they don't operate on goals. That they just kind of roll with the punches and just are constantly evaluating where they want to take the company. And when I first read that, I was like, yeah, I can see where that makes sense. But when you do have a goal, you need a timeline because your team needs to know, right? It's the whole SMART goal methodology works well. You need to tell them specifically what they need to do, the measurable result we're looking for, and the time that it needs to happen. And that's not the full SMART method, but yeah, if I just say, hey, go sell 100 of these widgets, okay, everybody interprets things differently, right? I might do it over the next 2 years. Well, I need you to do it in the next month. So that's why you need timelines on goals.
Absolutely. I like to call them milestones instead of goals.
Yeah.
I think it depends on, what kind of work you're doing. If I'm developing some kind of application or website, I definitely use milestones because the goal is done, right? Oh, get this project to completion. That's the goal.
Right.
But you don't know what things might ebb and flow throughout that process, right? And you just don't know.
So we use the phrase, we use the word targets with our customers that we work with, just because we initially help them set targets for everything that drives the revenue, profit, and cash. So ultimately they have revenue, profit, and cash targets. And, the alternative there is goal or budget. And I find budget to be a big, scary finance word for most non-financial oriented business owners. It feels constrictive. They don't like it.
It's rigid.
It's rigid, and target. We're setting targets that we're trying to achieve. And then you have we'd have measurable objectives along the way. So
I have an interesting story on how the word target probably would have helped me in my career. With my staff, I'm very to the point, right? I like to celebrate their wins, but when we fail, I like to say, hey, this is how we failed. And I think it's important to recognize that so that we don't do it again, right? And then just talk about it. It's not yelling at anybody. I'm just saying, hey, this is a fact. We failed. But saying we missed our target might be a better way to say that, because I know I've gotten resentment from people before, and I just didn't know how else to say we didn't live up to their expectations, right? To me, that's just a failure. But if we missed our target, that might be a much nicer way to say it, to communicate it to your staff. So I really like that, using the target as being close to target, close to the bullseye, still a good hit, right? It might not be the bullseye, but I got damn close, and that's still, I think, celebratable events.
Yeah, I'm a baseball guy, so if your team won 80 games last year, and the target, the team says let's target 100 wins this year. We're making the playoffs. We're going to be one of the best teams, and you hit 99. That's a win.
Yeah,
you wouldn't saying, oh, you came in under budget there. It just sounds ridiculous. Like, yeah, we missed our target a little bit, but it allows that opportunity to say, okay, yeah, we're still right there. We came in.
Right. It's a softer language.
Yeah.
That is more palatable to more people. So, which is a trap that I fall into all the time, is just to the point language, right? And not softening my language for people. And it tends to, sometimes it offends people.
Yeah.
I'm learning and growing as a boss and a leader and a person as well. So, we'll let that one go.
Yeah.
That's it for today's show, folks. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. All you have to do to join that text line is send me any question about business or technology. I'll do all the research, and I'll give you an absolutely free, totally unbiased answer. Get to work.